Laurie felt her heartbeat spike up, but before she could even process what she had heard, she got up as fast as she could and went to check on her mom's. Hearing the characteristic sound of a cape flapping with the wind, she waited for a few seconds before entering the living room. She knew Supergirl had left to check on what happened, but she had to pretend she didn't. "What was that?" she asked Lena, who was standing in the middle of the room, looking out the balcony doors. She looked surprised at Laurie and said, "We don't know yet. Kara is calling some people to see if there's any information already." She lied a bit, and Laurie pretended to believe. "Oh, okay. That sounded scary. I hope it's nothing serious." She awkwardly smiled at her mom. "Let me know if you discover anything." Lena nodded and Laurie went back to her room. There she looked out the window and tried to listen to Kara's heartbeat, which was fast and a little unsteady. She had the terrible feeling that this was going to be that damn day that killed Kara. It was her fault. She brought it with her. It wasn't supposed to happen for another 1.8 years. She breathed in and out. God damn it, she thought to herself. She tried to remember how it all had happened. The first time she heard about it was when she was 6 from Alex. It was a normal day until a monster showed up, blowing things up and trying to hurt people. He was looking for Clark and Kara. That monster was a kryptonite man, a dude 100,000 years old that had similar powers to the supers, but had also absorbed kryptonite. He had lived in Krypton many years before Kara and put himself to sleep when the threat of a meteor lurked over the planet. Something went wrong and he woke thousands of years later. When Krypton was dying, he blamed the new race of Kryptonians for its destruction. He survived the explosions by absorbing the radiating kryptonite. He was after the supers, looking for revenge. They fought him for a full day, the kryptonite making it hard for Superman and Supergirl to face him for too long, and his powers being too strong for the other heroes. Eventually, Lena and Brainy managed to make a device that would make it possible to defeat him. They had to lock him inside the said device, and there the green radiation would be drained from his body, and he wouldn't be able to get out of there. As they were trapping him, in the last second he managed to grab Kara and pull her in with him. An unplanned kryptonite explosion killed them both. She sighed for probably the 1,000th time, feeling defeated. There wasn't much that she could do. She wasn't as strong as Kara, and certainly if she tried to help, she would only make things worse. She could use the anti-kryptonite suit Lena made years before, but she knew the radiation from his body was so strong that after some time, the suit would stop working. She was debating what to do when there was a knock at the door. "I'm going to Elko to see if I can have more information. Kara just left now. It seems to be an alien threat, but we're still studying it. Stay inside, okay? It's safer in here," Lena informed Laurie, with that same look she had when she would tell little Laurie to not do something. "Oh, okay. Be careful," she warned, and Lena smiled. "Will do. If anything happens, call me or Kara. Our numbers are at the kitchen island. You can use the phone that's in Kara's office. Goodbye." She smiled a bit and left, gently closing the door. Lena left the room, and a few seconds later Laurie heard the front door closing. She knew Lena was leaving to go help the others, and her heart beat with worry. There wasn't much that she could do, so she tried to distract herself with the book Kara bought her. She ended up falling asleep half an hour later and woke up around 10 a.m. When she remembered what was happening, she rushed to Kara's office, calling Lena to check on everything. The phone rang and no one answered. Laurie's heart was beating wildly with worry, so she turned on the news channel and listened to Kara and Lena's heartbeats. They were fighting with him, but Kara was alive and Lena was nowhere to be seen, probably making the device. She let out a puff of air she didn't know she was holding in, and her eyes caught something. A few papers spread out on the table with Kara's characteristic handwriting. Instantly, Laurie knew what it was. She sat down and grabbed one, her teary eyes blurring her vision. "Hi, baby girl. I believe you're turning 5. How tall must you be now? A few months ago you were the size of an olive and now you're turning 5? How did that happen?" A tear fell down her face and she giggled, imagining her mother saying that to her. She knew that letter by heart. The words were burned to her memory. It was her favorite one of all 18 letters. She quickly passed her eyes through the introduction, touching the words and smiling softly until she reached her favorite part. "And then I met Lena, and I had never seen a more prettier woman in my entire life. I was paralyzed, and it was my wow moment. I knew I would love her till my last breath, and there was nothing in the world I wouldn't do to make her happy." Kara sacrificed herself to protect Lena and her family, to save the ones she loved the most. It wasn't fair on anyone that was left behind. The space she occupied in their family was forever hollow. Nothing could replace it. Laurie knew what a life without her mom would look like, and now she could prevent it from happening. And that's what she's going to do. She grabbed the fountain pen and began writing. Her handwriting wasn't near as beautiful as Kara's, but she had the same gift with words as her journalist mother, one of the reasons why she would become a reporter as well. It took her around 30 minutes to finish up her letter, and when she sealed it, a single teardrop fell on top of it. She was afraid of the future, of what was going to happen, but fear never stopped her. She looked at a picture of her mom's that the blonde kept in her office, one where Lena was laughing with her head thrown back and her hand over her baby bump, and Kara was making a funny face. She touched it and kissed the glass, smiling fondly at the love shared between them and their family. She got out of the office and entered her mom's suit. Using her X-ray vision to locate the spare suit her Jiju kept in the room, she put it on and touched the symbol on her chest, locating the anti-kryptonite suit and activating it. Looking at the mirror one last time, she sighed and flew out of the house. It wasn't hard to find Supergirl. The hero was the last one fighting Kryptonite Man as Lena and Brainy set the device that would defeat him and tried to maintain calm. Once it was ready and Lena signaled to Kara, Laurie flew as fast as she could, and before the blonde could push the alien towards the device, Laurie did. Time moved in slow motion as Laurie pushed his chest towards the machine. She saw the look of surprise on her Jiju's face and utter confusion on Lena's. She pushed as hard as she could, and when she felt him grab her arm, she knew it was the finish line. He trapped her there with him. Laurie looked around and it felt like she was in another dimension. The emptiness in the space around her made her fingers tingle. Kryptonite Man started to groan as the radiation inside him was being drained, and in a spate of fear, she started to fly as fast as she could away from him. She couldn't tell if she was actually moving or if anything was happening at all, but she kept flying with all the strength in her. Suddenly, her vision went back, and she felt the consciousness leave her body. Kara was shocked. She had no idea what had just happened. One moment she was fighting the alien, and the next, he was gone. She saw someone with her suit take her place and was unable to do anything to stop them. But Kryptonite Man was gone, and at the end, that's what mattered. After dealing with the remains of the fight, each hero went back to their home. It was past midnight when Kara and Lena reached theirs. The first thing they did once there was look for Eliza, who was nowhere to be found. "Lizzie," she exclaimed every time she entered a room and tried to use her superhearing to locate the girl, but got nothing in return. Once reaching her office and not finding the girl, she sat down. Frustrated and worried, she looked around, trying to see if at least a clue of where she was the girl had left behind, and found a letter sitting atop of the ones she had been writing the previous days. She grasped it and looked at her own name. She opened the letter carefully and started to read it. "Hi, Mom. I know you must be really confused and probably worried right now, and I'll explain everything. But firstly, my name is Lorelei Eliza Luthor-Danvers. or as you know me, Lizzie. On the day of my 18th birthday, I somehow ended up in 2022 and came across you. I never met you, since you died when I was still just a toddler, but I could recognize you anywhere. To save my identity and the integrity of the world as I knew it, I pretended to be someone else. I never planned to spend weeks here. I was supposed to go back to my time the very next day, but I had the opportunity of getting to know my mother, and I could not leave without at least spending some time with you. After knowing what life was like with you in it, do you blame me for not wanting to go back to a world without you? I wanted to avoid reality as best I could, and even if I tried to keep the timeline as I found it, I changed it, and Kryptonite Man appeared 1 year and 8 months before he was supposed to. He was the one that killed you in my reality. I tried my best to not do it, but I could not watch you die and not do anything about it. I thought about this other version of me, who's still in my mom's belly, and I do not want her to know what a life without you in it is like. To know that the pain from losing you is still fresh in Lena's and Alex's eyes, that my mom lost her soulmate and my aunt her best friend, that the world lost its hope, that the heroes lost the strongest one of them. So if you're reading this, I suppose you're alive and I'm not. Please understand me. Would you do anything differently if you were in my shoes? The one thing I ask you is that you keep everyone safe, but without killing yourself in the process. You're the light in our family's life, and the world was hollow and grey without you. Mom is her best self when you're together, stronger together, weaker apart, right? And our family is only full with you in it. Please kiss everyone for me, hold them and let them know that I love them all, and that I loved you, even if I only knew you for months. I know you'd be the best mom to the unborn version of me, and I'm glad she'll have you and Mom to take care of her. I loved every second I spent with you, and sincerely, I would do everything again. Goodbye. I love you and Mom. Cara didn't feel the tears running down her face until a single one dropped on the paper. It was her daughter all along, laughing with her, cooking with her own daughter who sacrificed herself in front of the reporter. She had so many questions. Lena knocked on the door and came inside. I just finished calling Alex, and she said she'll look for the lost girls in the city. They're already letting the police know. Cara gestured no with her hand, and Lena raised a single brow. There's no need to do it. Call it off. Lena crossed her arms and got closer. Why not? Did you find her? She asked. No, but I found this. She handed the letter to her wife. The brunette was even more confused when she noticed her wife had been crying. She took the letter and rapidly read it, her heart crushing with every word. Oh God, she looked at the blonde and they hugged each other at the same time, both putting a hand on top of the baby. Bump. The darkness and the silence slowly began to dissipate as Laurie regained consciousness. Her head was pounding and a slight ringing in her ear gave place to low voices in the background. She tentatively opened her eyes, her blurry vision slowly focusing on the blonde-haired person in front of her. Oh, you're up, the person said, with a childlike voice. Confusion grew even more in Laurie's head when she remembered the last things that had happened. As her eyes finally adopted to her surrounding, she realized that it was indeed a child in front of her, a blonde, blue-eyed one. He looked too familiar. He smiled brightly with little dimples in both his cheeks and jumped on top of her, hugging her. Connor, let your sister catch her breath. Cara's easy voice sounded behind Laurie, and Laurie jumped up immediately. She looked around, and her whole family was looking confused at her. She focused first on Cara and then Connor. It worked. She felt her eyes get watery. You're alive. Kara looked confused for a second, and then her face softened, a sweet smile on her face as she walked towards Laurie and hugged her. Yeah, thanks to you. The teenager felt a couple of tears falling on her mother's shoulder. And I have a brother, she whispered, and felt Kara nod. Have I missed too much? I'll tell you everything. Don't worry.